Hello, hello.
Bonjour. How are you, Eugenie?
Hi. Thank you so
Hi.
much for joining us here at the Avi Experience platform.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, from what I understand, folks may be joining us from Instagram and also Facebook. And then those folks who don't get a chance to join us live, hopefully will get a chance to see this. But this is our first in a series of Instagram lives, promoting and kind of giving people a sense of what we're doing as a collaborative with our friends, We Are Formless. Before I get in this great conversation with Espy and let him introduce himself, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Avi Experience is and does, and kind of what we're doing in this collaboration, exploring authenticity. So, Avi Experience is really it's a coaching and kind of self and personal development platform. We've been kind of really putting this thing together, and flying the plane as we're building it, if you will, over the past year, if not 2 years or so, in this way, although it has been, as most things are, an evolution over time. And so we're not going to get too deep into Avi. We'll let people tune in to our website, avi.me, to learn more. But really, we're trying to provide pathways and resources for folks who are, sorry, someone just asked me to move to the middle. How's this? Is this the middle?
No.
No. Am I farther away? Other way. Okay.
There you go.
How's this?
Yeah.
Okay. On my screen, it's the other way. So, yeah, providing pathways and practices to bring people closer to themselves. And last year, actually, we started a collaborative experience with our friends who run a similar but very different platform called We Are Formless, based out of London. And we came together early on in the pandemic to try to provide access to healing pathways at a point when a lot of people needed it most. And just kind of connectedness with one another while providing connectedness to oneself, right? And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience bringing this collective of people together. And so we're doing it again this year with a real focus on exploring your innate authenticity. And so we brought in some new collaborators into the collective, including Espy. And so, yeah, over the next couple weeks, right before the series starts, we'll be introducing people to our new collaborators. And Espy here is the first. And so, full disclosure for our audience, he is not just an amazing artist and vocal artist and one of our healing collaborators. He's a very dear friend of mine. So I am very proud to have him here. And so I will let you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can just dive into kind of questions and letting people know, kind of what you have in store throughout the series.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name's Espy Magana. And as Eugenie said, I am also very lucky to call Eugenie a dear friend. And what else is there to say about me, Eugenie?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because just knowing the platform that we have here, we're retaining a virtual platform, especially since we're trying to engage an audience across seas, across time zones, across the world. It's remaining virtual, and I mentioned that you're a visual artist, a vocal artist, but most of your art, your experience, your creative outlets have been in person, right? But we're in offering kind of yourself to your creativity virtually. How is that translated? But I actually like to hear you talk a little bit about, I've mentioned you're a singer and you're a visual artist, but like, how would you, this whole thing is about exploring authenticity. Like, how do you identify? How does Espy identify himself on this earth?
I think that question is ever evolving for someone who considers themselves an artist. Like visual art, like you're calling me a visual artist, that what came into fruition not too long ago. Like I've always considered myself a performer first, but my grandma used to say like one color attracts everything else. So like of course I do music, so that led me to be like, okay, so if I'm gonna put on a show, what are the visuals for the show? Oh, I like this. I like this. Oh, what if I and so that stemmed from me doing something like on paper or like photography, or I haven't, um, what I want to get into, like how you said, how I identify myself. Like I've always wanted to do physical art, like a clay thing, or like I'm looking at my like blown glass art over here, and I'm like blowing glass, like stuff like that. But that question is always, I think as an artist, it's always changing. I can't fully say something. I'm this type of an artist and this type of a person because I feel like I'm always growing. Like today, for sure, singing will always be my first passion. But who knows? When I'm like 60, I'll like end up making these cute little. I don't know. I'm just going off on a tangent of what
No?
could the possibilities of what can happen to me. Wow,
Yeah.
talking a lot, and I'm hearing myself say nothing.
No, you're not. You see, that's what I love about this. Like, you know, it's funny. Espy knows because we were backstage on this little platform here that we're streaming from, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't have time to dry my hair," and like that because. But then I'm like, "Wait a second, we're talking about authenticity. Like, the truth is, most of the time, I don't have time to dry my hair." Like, and so what is life but tangents? So going off on a tangent is not like that's like following your authentic thread, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about your art and where you may go and da 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 da. But and I loved hearing you say, you know, singing is your first passion and that you are a performer. You know, you and I actually, as friends, I've never heard kind of like where you started on your journey of being a performer, because that is a real gift of yours. Like you have many gifts, but one of yours is to not just perform. This is where I think the crux of authenticity is. When you are performing, I don't feel like you're performing. I feel like you're gifting.
Well, I think it's well. You're asking where it started. I think it stems from like wanting to belong. Like I remember as a child, my grandmother would teach me all these songs, and I wanted to be with her, and I wanted to have a connection with her. So I, of course, learned them. And then that stems, and then when that happened, they'll be like, okay, now perform for these people, perform for these people. So for me, I think it was more of a like, oh, this is how I admire my grandmother so much. This is how I get her attention. This is how I could live with her. I could have a moment with her is by performing. So that's where I think that's where everything stems from wanting to, well, my opinion, wanting to belong, wanting to live in that moment, be like, oh, cool. Sure, our conversations, me being 6 and she being my grandmother, like you can't really have full out like in-depth conversation. So what I could do is sing. Oh, this causes this reaction. This causes, oh, now I have, I don't know, now I'm experiencing with all these people. And I think that's where it came from. I think just wanting to be part of.
Oh, I love that. You know, it's funny. For exploring authenticity, you know, our last year, our theme was calling you home, and it was very broad. But we still realize that in exploring your authenticity, you're still being called home if home is yourself, right? And so the themes of belonging come up a lot. So I love that you just automatically went there. And so I love that, like, you know, just bonding with your grandmother, singing. So then kind of what were the next steps? And like, you know, you were like, all right, I love singing with my grandmother. Like throughout childhood, that was 6. Take me through SB, high school. Like what active things are you pursuing in pursuit of your authenticity, if you will, or in maybe the rocky road to find it, right? Because it's not always like, now I know where I'm going to get
No,
there.
absolutely not. Like I during like my, I want to say middle school days to like high school, it didn't become a chore, but my parents put my sister and myself and my brother through like a whole bunch of, it was piano, it was accordion, it was like, and then voice lessons when I started to. So I think as of like everything has different chapters, like it became sort of like, oh, this is just what I do in my off time, this is what my parents make me do. But in high school, it's like when I started doing musical theater, and it wasn't until my junior year I was in band. Music has always been part of my life. Like I remember like when I told my parents what I wanted to go to college for, they're like, "What? What do you mean you want to go to art school? What do you mean you want to go to theater school?" And I was like, "You guys basically forged me since birth to sing and to perform. Why are you shocked?" But again, in high school, I was in band, but I didn't get a love for musical theater till like my junior year. Like when I started performing, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this could actually be." I felt great. I loved being on stage. It was nice, like dealing with all that high school angst and putting it into a character, if you will. But then it was college, and then I've been on the stage since I can remember, I guess, Eugenie.
Oh, well, you just said the word character was really interesting, and that thread is going to run throughout a lot of the series, a lot of the different sessions in the series of exploring authenticity, the different characters that we take on that are actually us, right? Like
Correct.
I may have my role, my character as friend and then as partner, or as like more assertively, like now I'm a consultant, now I'm a coach, now I'm a whatever, right? And so
Multifaceted. We are multifaceted.
right. And then I think so often when we get away from, and what feels like stifling is when we get away from what feels authentic, is when we start to like either deny those different parts, or we put too much effort into just one of them instead of honoring the other parts of ourselves, right? And so I think like when we actively are in theater, oftentimes we're practicing those characters, right? I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing.
No. Yeah, and also the older I'm getting, and the older I'm like, well, the longer I'm here, I think art and living and like experiences. For example, like I was just talking in high school. I was in a production of The Music Man, and there was I was this guy, character named Marcellus Washburn. I don't know diddly squat about being this guy who lived in like the early 1900s, but like when you did you go away?
No, I'm here. It's just the thing actually isolates the speaker. So keep speaking. I'm still here.
Oh, so now it's just me on camera. I got a little nervous. No, I'm just saying. I think as artists grow old, you are living and you are gathering experiences. Therefore, you could build upon. Let's say if you're in a production of whatever, you could tragedies. Unfortunate as unfortunate as they are, have always been the fuel to I feel to myself as an artist have fueled creativity. So like let's say I am playing a heartbroken single dad. I will talking right now. I think I will never bear children, but I know what heartbreak is. I know what it is to probably be alone. So you could stem off real life and then go into your character, if you will. Am I answering any other question?
No, I like that. We're having a conversation. That's great. Well, and I kind of wanted to talk about those characters and those different parts of us, because one thing that you are going to be talking about in your session is mirror work. And I think you mentioned this great thing about how you actually like learned this practice in theater camp or school. I don't remember.
It was at my voice and speech class in college.
Okay.
It was basically we were taught a Cockney accent and we were taught British. And there's a lot that goes on with your mouth. There's a lot that goes on with your tongue and your teeth. And so we would sit in class and we would look at a mirror and we would practice the O sounds, vowel sounds, consonants, or whatever. And I remember there was like a lot of my classmates. There was a Canadian girl who had like when she would talk or she would say certain sounds, her eyes she would just blink at different times. And that stuff, like you don't know that's a thing until you have a teacher telling you, like, well, if you want to work on camera, or if you want to do this, you have to get rid of a lot of the things. I never really had an accent, but I got my O's. My O's have always been a problem for me. So you practice. It sounds silly, but like in after class or whatever, you just see a whole bunch of college kids like going around looking at themselves in the mirror and like trying to do sounds or whatever, blah 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 blah. But from that, I think the longer you have time to yourself while you're looking at yourself, it's a lot more what is it called when you're the word that I'm looking for is
Self-reflective.
Yeah, and also very intimate. Like you're looking at yourself, trying to correct anything that you think needs correcting based off if you, for example, it was a class, so I had to correct my O sounds. But it's it's extremely personal and at the same time extremely not uncomfortable, but like I don't know.
No, I will say it actually. So, and what I love about this is that you learned this technique in art school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very common therapeutic technique for someone who's learning self-love, for example. I mean, we remember. I mean, maybe not all of us remember, but Stuart Smalley, I think he was SNL, or yeah, I think he was Saturday Night Live. He would look in the mirror and say, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me," right? He would always look,
Yeah.
and that stems from real psychological kind of practice and recommendations, right? And that's regarded as kind of cheesy, that exact technique, but there are a lot of therapists and coaches today who really recommend people take time to look at themselves in the mirror daily, or just create a practice of that, and either repeat mantras or look for things. And there's so much to that. And I have a dear friend who has practiced that a lot and trying to just kind of deal with anxiety, and now regards like mirror work as like one of her go-to like anti-anxiety things when she's feeling kind of out of herself. And she has a story about she was somewhere and just feeling really high anxiety, just literally like looks in the mirror, looks at herself, starts like I'm fine, I'm okay, because she could see in the mirror
Immediate.
what
You were okay.
like what
Right now, you're fine.
yeah, exactly. I'm fine. All I am is the same person, right? Now, there's a lot more to work through because we so often look in the mirror looking for flaws, as you said. And I love that kind of that was the impetus behind your schooling, right? When you were trained to look in the mirror, it was to look for those flaws or what you're doing wrong or what you need to correct. But you've since transitioned it, especially at a time when all of us got a little self-reflective or needed to go self-reflective in the last year and a half. During this pandemic, you have really channeled that training and kind of your own personal experience into what seems to be a very therapeutic and inspirational art. And so if you want to tell people a little bit about kind of your series, your photograph series, and I want to know what's a little behind that. Don't spill the beans too much because that'll be a part of your session, but a little bit about the thinking behind that. And yeah, let people know where they can see some of it on your Instagram.
Yeah, most of the pictures that I take, Instagram is probably my main anything and everything. I'm not really on Facebook as much, but I post everything on Instagram. Eugenie, I'm telling you again, you're the first person who like actually has referred to my picture taking as a platform, as a art, as pieces, I guess, or whatever. But again, it just stems from me finding myself and knowing that there's not just, of course, it's the immediate that you see, obviously, but then there's like the mental you, then there is the heart you, then there is like, I don't know. I honestly think each and every one of us has, again, different facets. And for me, I like to play around with the camera with that. Like I know that you take a picture, I take a picture, and then I know that the symmetry of whatever I am against, whatever I'm doing, it could be doubled or it could be tripled, or you can make 4 of yourselves, and all those versions, all those edited things, it's still you. But I don't know, it's kind of hard. I don't know, I get all when I talk about stuff like this, I always get so self-conscious or self-conscious, what's the actual terminology?
Self-conscious.
Yeah. No, but it's just, I know, I like
But that's can I say that's what's so brave about it, right? Like you're saying that talking about it, you're self-conscious, but your exhibition of it is the opposite of that. It's so brave. You're not only you're showing like I'm looking in the mirror, you're showing your audience. that you're looking in the mirror and like what that means, that you are kind of, like you said, bidirectional. We are inherently bidirectional. We are inherently like reflections of ourselves and the world around us. Like it's
and also I don't mean to interrupt, but also as you're talking, I'm thinking of things. For me, I think it has been an expression of like my I don't genders. I don't think it's like male or female for me. I think it's just like there's so much. It's just not like, I don't know. I for me it has been therapy as to how I am expressing myself in that way. Like I think the more I'm living, the more I'm realizing that I might be non-binary, but I'm still very much I listen. Inside of us all, there is like we were talking about female energy and male energy, and also there's a third. And me, again, I have no training in any of gender studies, but I believe that with interactions with people like what we're doing right now or in period life, like you have different sides of you, different characters. And so but by doing the photo work that I do, I can experiment with that while taking pictures. I can experiment with my gender through the pictures. Like I know that I'm me, and then I'm male presenting most of the time. But with these pictures, I could see, I post them or whatever, and I'm like, oh look, that I remember exactly how I took that picture. But at the same time, like people don't actually feel what I felt when I took that picture. I don't know.
They do. Actually, no, they do. That's the thing. You are exhibiting I love that. You just brought up like it in your, we can talk a lot about, I think we will talk more in your session, probably about the masculine, feminine energy and not only like what that means in authenticity, like as far as exploring your innate authenticity, but how you can use forms of self-expression like your portraiture that Tyler just mentioned in the comments, like your portraiture, to really experiment in those feelings of masculine, feminine energy. But then that third bit, right? Like that third, fourth, or fifth, right? Price of energy.
Yeah, 6, 7, 12. Like
yeah.
At the end of the day, Eugenie, we're just energy. We're just energy, and we're stuck in this flesh until we're not stuck. But there is, I don't know. There's so much wonderment. Is wonderment a word? Yeah, I don't know. I like
It's good. I'm so excited to explore deeper into this. I think Espy will have some actual, like, again, techniques that he learned in the mirror that he'll be sharing. So I do invite folks to, again, check out avi.me in the events space. Get your ticket to the series. It will, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I've something like this, like 28 days of intentional exploration and healing in community, in my opinion, is worth more than oftentimes a year or two of therapy, of talk therapy. Healing in community we've been doing it for eons as humans. And so I think it's really essential. And these are real tangible practices like Espy will be sharing that we can take into our everyday life. So I'm super excited, and thank you so much for being here in our first series of IG Lives for this. So yeah, 2 things for anyone watching. Get your ticket before September. Well, get it ASAP, but we start September 16th. And also follow Espy on Espy. Can you spell out your Instagram live, and hopefully
my handle is
put it in the chat as well.
ESPY _ Nezawal, NEZA Nezawal, HUAL. Sorry, I had to think about it for a second. Nezawal.
Yeah, and hopefully Heather, our magician producer on this, will be able to put that into the chat when we post this so people can follow and tune in. Our next IG Live is with my dear friend Marina South from We Are Formless and her friend Tor on Wednesday. And so follow Avi and We Are Formless and Espy. And stay tuned for our next IG Live, learning about what's coming up and exploring authenticity. And Espy, I'll leave the last words up to you. Anything you want to share with the audience before we bounce?
my gratitude. Just my gratitude. And I'm also, as much as we're going to talk about exercises that I'm doing. It's also, it's going to be very, very therapeutic for me. And also to delve back in my old college notes and to see what I can show you guys or we could find out together or explore together is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Other than that, I'm happy and grateful and honored to be part of this. Eugenie.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for tuning in and who's watching this later. And thanks for being a part of our community.
Ah! Is it